We are the anchors of Queer News Tonight, and this evening we discuss the queer headlines. A new Vatican study group report includes detailed LGBTQ Catholic testimonies, condemns reparative therapy harms, and acknowledges church-enabled stigma.
Radiant Mobile, a new Christian phone service, faces backlash against LGBTQ content. Critics warn the platform could isolate queer youth seeking online support and community.
Federal investigators are examining whether Smith College violated Title IX by allowing trans women into women's spaces. This might have potential federal funding consequences.
The 79th Tony Awards nominations spotlight major LGBTQ+ talent with queer-inclusive productions such as Schmigadoon and Cats, the Jellicle Ball, leading Broadway's biggest night on June 7th.
San Antonio City Council recognizes Trans Plus History Week for the first time, highlighting transgender history and inclusion amid growing anti-trans policies in Texas and nationwide. All this important LGBTQ+ news and more this evening on Queer News Tonight. Welcome to Queer News Tonight. This is the world's first and only LGBTQ daily news television show, broadcasting live and available on demand on your favorite streaming channels.
Analytics company vidIQ has certified Queer News Tonight YouTube channel as the world's most popular LGBTQ streaming news show. Our queer stories have reached over 12 million views.
We are proud that Queer News Tonight has more YouTube subscribers than any other LGBTQ brand in Florida.
We thank you for watching and supporting our voice in our rainbow family. There is no other news program in the LGBTQ world like Queer News Tonight.
It is Thursday, May 7th. We are live and literally out of the closet and into the headlines. So many of your important stories we will tell this evening on Queer News Tonight.
You're watching Queer News Tonight, the world's first daily LGBTQ evening news show.
Welcome to the world's most important LGBTQ evening news show.
Hotspots magazine, Happening Out Television Network, is a nonprofit 501c3 media company in the same model as PBS and NPR, but created for the LGBTQ community. Our nonprofit mission is to support the 11 pillars of our community. We want to inform and educate the key issues of lesbian, trans, Latino, Black, healthcare, seniors, students, faith, social justice, business, and queer culture. Help us support our diverse community.
We are part of one of the largest LGBTQ nonprofit media companies in America, Hotspots Magazine and Happening Out Television Network.
In 2026, our magazine is celebrating 41 years of the LGBTQ experience, and Queer News Tonight is celebrating our 5th anniversary with more than 14,000 LGBTQ television stories. We present South Florida's major LGBTQ events, including Pride Fort Lauderdale, Stonewall Pride, and Pride Fete. Our magazine, events, television news, talk, and entertainment shows support our mission to educate the LGBTQ and broader community.
In 2026, more than 100 community leaders will sit at this table and share their voice as our anchors. Together, we host this show to support the LGBTQ community. Let's meet this evening's anchors on Queer News Tonight. Let's welcome anchor Brian Bender. Brian is a true South Florida local. He is an educator, community leader, and a strong voice in education, history, and public policy. He teaches in Broward County Public Schools, holds a bachelor's and master's degree in education, and a postgraduate degree in leadership, and serves on the Fort Lauderdale Education Advisory Board. Welcome to the show, Brian.
Thank you so much for having me, Rex. Gentlemen, it is a pleasure to be here as usual to be able to discuss all the news that's fit to print and all the things that we can't talk about on air, we'll talk about when we cut. So thanks for having me.
Let's welcome anchor Larry Farver. Larry has over 20 years of experience in human resources, acting, film, radio, TV, live events, parade float design and production, and casting. He is also a board member of the West Side Association. Welcome to the show, Larry.
Thank you, Rex. It's good to be here with you, gentlemen.
Absolutely. Let's welcome anchor Gregg Shapiro, an inductee into the Chicago LGBT Hall of Fame. Gregg is an entertainment journalist whose celebrity interviews and reviews run in a variety of regional LGBTQ publications and websites. Welcome to the show, Gregg.
Happy to be here. At this point, I'm happy to be anywhere.
And of course, let's welcome tonight's lead anchor, Rex Rogosch. Rex is a visionary designer with over 30 years of experience in product design, interior design, and architecture. He performs in the drag community as International Lords and is the current reigning Mr. Scandals 2026. Rex is the president and co-founder of Lantera, a 501c3 organization dedicated to advancing mental health awareness through inclusive, community-driven events. Welcome to the show, Rex.
Thank you.
You're
It's
welcome.
actually good to sit, because if anybody knows, this weekend we had Come As You Are prom, which ended up being our largest prom to date, raising over $14,000 for our mental health fund.
That's great.
So I'm
Wow.
glad to be sitting at the table and not running around. So thank you for having me.
Very much.
I'm Rex Rogosch, and let's queer up faith. Vatican study includes LGBTQ Catholics' testimonies for the first time. The Vatican has released a new study group report that is drawing attention for including detailed testimonies from LGBTQ Catholics, a move that advocates are calling historic. The report was produced by theologians and pointed to examine issues left unresolved during the Synod on Synodality, the global listening initiative launched under Pope Francis. While the Synod itself avoided directly addressing queer inclusion, the report tackled sexuality, gender, and church reform in unprecedented detail. Father James Martin, founder of Outreach, an LGBTQ Catholic ministry, said, quote, "It's a big deal. As far as I know, it's the first time that in any official publication of the Vatican, they've included witnesses and testimonies and stories from LGBTQ Catholics in any kind of detailed way," end quote. The report includes testimonies from 2 married gay men and condemns the devastating effects of reparative therapies aimed at recovering heterosexuality. It also acknowledges the Church's role in enabling, quote, "the solitude, anguish, and stigma," end quote, experienced by LGBTQ people and their families. The report has also drawn criticism from far-right Catholic outlets, LifeSite News, which questioned the document's lack of emphasis on, quote, "the sinful nature of homosexuality," end quote. Well, I mean, there's always going to be the naysayers. You know, or everybody knows and has watched any of this, knows how I feel about organized religion in general, and I'm not a fan. And I find that, you know, Catholicism is just a giant, you know, cult.
Tell us what you really think. Keep going.
However, it's nice to see, because I have done some reports through school and whatnot on the way the Vatican actually sees things versus what they actually say in public. And so it's interesting to see the difference in different popes and how they kind of look at their own scripture, look at their own rules and regulations, and just like any lawmaker goes, oh, well, there's some wiggle room there. So it's nice to see that they're actually taking into account that they do know that there's LGBTQ people that are Catholic and that believe in that faith, and they're starting to posture towards at least listening to them. Doesn't mean anything's going to change, but this shows a positive step. And then you're obviously going to have people who read scripture like it's, you know, black and white, this is what it is, and they're going to say, no, this is wrong. But I do commend the Pope for actually putting this out there and saying, hey, they're there, let's at least listen to them.
Sure. You know, there's always been a rift, you know, between conservative Catholics and, you know, more progressive Catholics. You know, you got people, talking heads on TV, kind of like how I am right now as a talking head, but you have talking heads on TV like Phil Donahue. He's actually a conservative Catholic commentator, and he talks about, to quote our story, the sinful nature of homosexuality. And he's always out there with his bullhorn, you know, talking about, you know, how, you know, gays are perverse and sinful and all of that. So it's nice to see that, you know, an official publication of the Vatican is actually, you know, maybe they're not going 100% all in, but they're definitely not going in the other direction where they're denying our existence. You know, I'm not speaking myself as a Catholic. I'm a good Jewish boy here, but it's quite interesting to kind of see, you know, like the splits, you know, like where the land, you know, lines up with, you know, certain people. And there's, even with our previous I say even with the previous Pope, there were a lot of people that felt as though, he was not in line with historical church teachings. I think the only way for the church to really maintain its flock is to get with the times, embrace the fact that they are an ancient institution at this point, but also understand that they have to operate in a world where people are changing their views on things.
Right.
So,
No, absolutely. And what I find funny is, the people that sit there and go, the ancient teachings. I'm like, you didn't read Aramaic. You didn't read Latin. I took 5 years of Latin. So if anybody wants to debate this with me, we can go ahead.
In Latin?
You can't really speak it, but we can start translating.
Okay.
Yeah.
But, what I find funny is that you've got these people who, talk about that. And there's a lot of there's a lot of doctrine in the church that isn't against sexuality, isn't against same-sex marriage. And also, if I remember correctly, in pretty much any religion, including everybody on earth is a sinner.
Right.
And everything that you do is a sin. Right. So let's not just call out one person or one sect or one culture that they're this big sin when everybody on the planet is technically a sin because somebody died for those sins.
Right.
Right.
Well, this is way out of my wheelhouse. So I consulted earlier with a very, very close friend who's a former priest with the Roman Catholic Church and is now a priest with the Reformed Catholic Church, which is an inclusive, affirming, progressive Catholic Church that has full equity for women and LGBTQ people in all levels of ministry and leadership. And he said some really interesting things, including that this far-right anguish about this from the Catholics. They're upset because it's official. It's now a report. It's in print. Instead of being this, idea in the air, it's in print. So that's really got them pissed off. And he said that he also said the inclusion of the married couples that were part of it. Of course, they were married outside of the Catholic Church because they won't perform those kinds of marriages. It's fine, but what about the millions of others who were ignored by their bishops? And there are plenty of those. And he says, how many times have they cracked this door open? This is not the first time. And where has it gotten us? He's described this as, quote, another plastic flower in a bouquet, end quote.
Oh.
Absolutely. Well, not to belabor this story, but Catholic documents does say that they will recognize any marriage as long as it's legal by law. And marriage was created by Romans under law, not religion. So I'm not going to go any further on that, but y'all can look it up. It's history. It's in the books. Go to the library. It's free.
I'm Brian Bender, and let's queer up the USA View. Christian phone carrier blocks LGBTQ plus content on new mobile network. A newly launched Christian mobile phone service is drawing criticism after announcing plans to block LGBTQ plus content for subscribers. Radiant Mobile was launched this week as a, quote, faith-focused mobile service, end quote, operating on the T-Mobile network. The company says it aims to filter what it calls harmful content, including queer material, pornography, and explicit content. According to The Independent, the service is believed to be the first mobile network specifically designed to block LGBTQ plus content. The company has partnered with Israeli cybersecurity firm Allot to help power its filtering technology. Paul Fisher, founder of Radiant Mobile, once told MIT Technology Review that he wanted to create a service void of LGBT and void of trans. He said, quote, "We are going to create what we think we have every right to do, an environment that is Jesus-centric." Radiant Mobile says parents can customize restrictions for children, block entire social media platforms like TikTok, and prevent the use of VPNs designed to bypass content filters. The company's approach mirrors rhetoric often used by opponents of LGBTQ plus rights, who claim exposure to queer people or information is harmful to children. Mental health researchers and advocates, however, have long found that online LGBTQ plus communities can provide critical support for queer and transgendered youth, especially those living in unsupportive homes. Radiant Mobile has also reportedly recruited Christian influencers across the United States to promote the service. Well, it sounds to me like, these people who call themselves Christian, I'm not here to litmus test anybody's, sincerely held religious beliefs. It sounds like these people that they might want to market this to are people who cannot control their own behavior, be it people that want to look at pornography, people that want to look at things that, they wouldn't want other people to know that they're looking at, and they want to put it under the guise of a Christian kind of a phone service in order to kind of curtail their own obsessive internet habits, if that makes sense. When you can't control your own behavior, you want to legislate other people's behavior because you want to make it illegal for them to do something to prevent you from doing that thing that they're doing. Maybe I'm making a word salad here. I probably am. But I hope my point was received by whoever's listening.
I'm going to let y'all go first because I'm going to get canceled.
Well, I mean, a lot of things out there to digest with this, but I mean, one of the things is, it'll be interesting to see who they get to promote these things. And I think as a LGBT community and certainly the other people that they're filtering out of this business, this brand, really need to take a look at that and use our power, with boycotting the people who promote it, just like Anita Bryant and all those other evil people before.
I was gonna, get a new phone service, so I guess I'm not gonna go to Radiant Mobile because I was really thinking about them. Yeah.
I also wonder how many of the leaders, I was taking a moment to look at their panel there, how many of their leaders may have some, they're protesting too much and may actually be filtering out those bad feelings that they have about what they really want.
Yeah, well, let me just say, thank Christ for burner phones. And maybe, this is more of that, I always say parental rights are wrong. Oh my God, stop having children that you think you can just control. This whole thing about they don't want the kids to have access on their phones. It's just like, you people just really should rethink reproduction. But maybe I was thinking Grindr and Scruff should team up and start their own mobile phone network.
That might be an idea, actually.
All right, so I'm probably going to get stoned for this. Look, they are an independent company, privately held, and they can do whatever they want. It's America. Unfortunately, that's the rules.
It's America.
It is.
It is.
The people who are going to seek those services are the people who are going to seek those services. It's no different than the cable channel networks that are Christian-based, that have Christian movies, that have Christian this, Christian that. They all filter out those things. I'm not saying it's right, but it's their right to do so, and the people that have the choice that want to go onto it, by all means, you're not going to find somebody who is probably LGBT going on this. Now, I do
I think you're going to find a lot of people on there that don't want to admit that they're LGBT.
I don't think so, and quite honestly, that's their choice. If they're dealing with that, I do feel that yes, if parents are getting, heavily Christian parents are getting it and they're putting their children on it. Now, look, I believe that parents should restrict what their children see and do anyway. They should parent. Honestly, there is a fine line there. There are too many 10-year-olds and 11-year-olds that probably are a little wiser and a little more grown up than they should need to be.
I agree.
However, again, if this company wants to do that, there's right and wrong with everything. There's wrong with saying let my child run wild and watch every porn movie that they want and kill. Like it is a parent's responsibility to parent their child, and government and those types of things shouldn't necessarily step in. So
right.
I see both sides to this.
But if stuff, we didn't have the internet when I was a kid.
Correct.
But we had friends who knew things, who had older brothers, and so the kids are going to find out this stuff regardless, whether they're on their phone, whether they're on the internet.
I understand.
The parents cannot block them from that.
I don't think that the parents can block them from everything, but I do think it is the parents' responsibility to instill certain principles in their children that say, hey, I know that you're going to be exposed to a lot of things out in the world. I'm going to tell you as your parent.
Conversation.
I don't
make it a conversation.
I don't think that's appropriate for you, and I think when you come across that, you should divert your eyes of that. And
we should talk about it.
We should talk about it.
Correct. That's what I'm saying. I I think that the backlash about this, yes, I think this is a slippery slope. And again, I've been watching all these really bad TV shows lately. And, if this was our only option for network, if it was state sponsored or government sponsored, I would be moving. However, it's a private network. It's being marketed to a very subsect of people. Yes, it's going to have some detriment to some people on there, and absolutely. But as you said, kids are smart, and they will find ways of getting the information. So while this is horrible, it's horrible what the guy said, and it's horrible the reasoning why he's doing this is 100% horrible. But unfortunately, we are in a community, a government, a country that allows this to happen, and you really can't stop it.
No.
And I hate to say that.
It's sad.
Yeah, I don't think that that's the question. It's an aspect of this. I don't think anybody's necessarily trying to stop it. It's just a crappy development, for people, for young people that might want to, do a little research outside of the structures of their family if they need to find out an answer to something.
Well, they have iPads and laptops.
What do these feel?
It's all there. They have libraries.
They have everything. And like I said, out of the 400 plus TV stations that are on cable, you've got about 10 or 12 of them that are this way as well already. And they've been around since I was a kid.
Yeah.
But I've watched the Duggars, 20 and counting. And if that was what the phone service is for their children, and, we could talk about all the scandals with John, whatever, doing with his sister, all that. There's other things there. But there are people that are raised in these very tight homeschooled Christian communities, and you say, oh, but there's an iPad that they can get to, or there's friends. If some of these people are not only raised in a cult, but the cult is their whole life.
Yes, of course.
So if this is what your family chooses to subscribe to, and you are not in the public schools, or you're not going to a secular private school or charter school, then you are really going to be cut off and be on an island.
That's what I'm saying. These kids are already on an island because most of them don't even have phones anyway.
Right.
So this is a moot point for them.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just, arguing,
there's a million ways.
Because I like to be argumentative.
But there's a
king.
There's a million ways for this. But unfortunately, this is the life we live.
I'm Larry Farver, and let's queer up students and youth culture. Trump Department of Education opens Title IX probe into Smith College over trans-inclusive admissions policy. According to the department's Office for Civil Rights, investigators will examine whether the college violated Title IX protections by, quote, allowing biological males into the women's intimate spaces, end quote. The investigation marks the latest escalation in the Trump administration's efforts to regulate transgender inclusion in higher education. Earlier this year, the administration moved to restrict trans participation in school sports through an executive order threatening federal funding for institutions with trans-inclusive athletic policies. That followed a January 2025 executive order defining gender based on assigned sex at birth and arguing that trans-inclusive interpretations of Title IX harmed women. In a statement to CNN, Smith College said the school is, quote, fully committed to its institutional values, including compliance with civil rights laws, end quote. Founded in 1871, Smith College has a long history tied to gender nonconforming and transgender students. In 2015, the liberal arts college formally adopted a policy allowing trans women to enroll following years of advocacy from students and campus organizers. Today, Smith's admission policy states that all students who identify as women, including, quote, cis, trans, and non-binary women, end quote, are eligible to apply. The department's Office for Civil Rights has warned that if the college is found in violation, it could lose its single-sex status, potentially forcing the school to either admit all students regardless of gender or risk losing access to federal funding. Well, this is a big disappointing story. But I think the light in the story is that the students were polled and they supported having trans students and non-binary students. So there is hope for the future. In my mind, it's sickening that we all here at this table pay taxes in some shape or another, and the discrimination against the trans community and LGBTQI plus community continues. And it's got to change. And, you know, I hope that they can find other alternative funding if they do stick to their guns and lose funding. And that's why we have to, you know, support organizations that speak out and are not afraid, you know, maybe to lose funding. And they have to seek it in alternate ways.
But I thought, isn't Smith College a private college?
But even private colleges get some sort of federal funding for certain programs.
Yeah.
Well, something tells me that this is like a retribution tour that illiterate bitch Linda McMahon, with her bachelor's degree in French from Eastern Carolina University, she probably couldn't be a Smith girl. She probably couldn't get into Smith, so now she's getting back at them. I want to be a Smith girl. Yeah, go pour yourself a drink.
You know, there's always, it seems like every generation, you know, there's a boogeyman, you know, in the 1940s, it was, you know, the Jews in Europe, you know, the 1960s, it was the Civil Rights Act. Every generation, it seems as though there is a group of people that is targeted. I think that up until trans rights became as visible as they are now, it was the gay community, you know. It's constantly shifting. I think that the Trump administration has a vendetta against gender nonconforming people. I think it's red meat to the base. I think it's red meat to the Christian fundamentalists. They have a very literal reading of their scripture. A literal and interpretive at the same time, which is kind of counterintuitive because it really doesn't say too much about, you know, gender nonconformity, in their holy books. And it's just, they're probably using an AI algorithm to comb through whatever data they have. Anything that looks like DEI, anything that looks like, anything with any humanity in it is fair game for the administration to slash funding, and they're using the Department of Education as a cudgel and as a weapon to exact political vendettas and to create political outcomes and create a new reality on the ground. Because once things get cut, you know, in this administration, even if we go back to some semblance of normality, whatever that means to us sitting at this table. And that, for me, that would mean including everybody, you know, in terms of their civil rights. The reality on the ground is going to be that, you know, for 2 years or 3 years or however much longer this administration has, the reality was on the ground that, you know, transgendered people got excluded, and it's going to be very hard to undo the things that are being done now. And
intentionally,
once that happens, it's hard to go back.
So this all boils down to power. So you have an administration that is targeting a population that's 1% of the entire population. And so in their mind, it's like, okay, if I go after a school, something large, and I say, I'm taking away your funding unless you don't do this. Now the school is kind of the Sophie's choice. I either stand up for that 1% and negate the 99% of the people that go to this school, or whatever the law, you know, all of it is, or I acquiesce and say, I'm sorry, but I have to do this for the greater good of our school. And that is what a lot of these rules and regulations on across the board in companies, in schools, they're having to have that choice. They either stand their ground and say, no, we're doing this, or they have to look and make a fiscal, unfortunately, a fiscal decision and go, do we stand up for the 1% or stand up for the 99%, because it might not physically, you know, even though it's a privately funded school or it's a business, it's not right. Unfortunately, when you're sit with that position, you have to sit there and look at it, and you second guess your morals compass, because you're like, I either close because I'm going to stand up for this 1%, or I have to make sure that the rest of the, you know, so it's like, you know, you amputate the leg when it's to save the body. And unfortunately, the government knows that. The government is using the power. And so they're using that and saying, we have the power over you by picking on the 1%, because it is everything that we do is ruled by money. And so now the government's showing, we have power. See what we could do to you just by picking on that one little thing.
Absolute point well taken.
And what a sad commentary. Here we are celebrating the 250th anniversary of our country that was founded on.
And we were the little man.
Yes, and to provide freedom to all that came here.
Yep.
Right.
And here we are now having this conversation.
Yep. And I don't think the government realized or thought that 1% had such a big voice and had more people behind it. They just thought, we're going to pick on that 1%, and they're not going to be, again, it's that power play. They're finding out that there's more people pushing, so that 1% is creeping up to 5%, creeping up to 10%, and that's what we need to do. As long as we keep telling these stories and getting people on that side, then we're tipping the power balance, and then organizations, schools, businesses won't have to make Sophie's Choice anymore because they'll have enough people behind, and we'll be like, no, we're going to alienate now 90%. The 1%'s the one that doesn't like it.
Right. Come be on the right side of history.
Come be on the right side of history. So that's why we're telling these stories.
I like your reading of the dynamics. I don't know that there's a way to gauge if that's really what they're thinking, but I think that could be plausible. I don't think that this administration or, the people that are jockeying for power within the structures of MAGA, I don't think that they're necessarily even caring, even if it tipped to 5%, 10%, 50%. I think that they have strongly held beliefs, as hateful as they might be.
I disagree. I don't think it's anything to do with beliefs. This has everything to do with power.
Yeah, but I think their belief is power. I don't separate those in my mind. I think their power, I think they are raised in a certain structure, in a certain cult-like mentality, if you want to call it that. And I think power is the natural outgrowth. They believe that it is their job to usher in the Armageddon or to usher in a Christian theocracy. And in order to have the groundwork laid for that, the reality on the ground has to change.
But you have an outcast Kennedy. So how do you explain that?
Well, he has brain worms. Has he had those cured yet?
But I'm just saying, I honestly
he's
think
a useful tool.
I honestly think that we have a couple of people that want power, and you have the people that want power who are latching onto it. I hate to say this, but now look at Marjorie Taylor Greene, who flip-flopped. You have so many people who have flip-flopped within their own, what they latch on. And I hate to say this, but even Trump was once a Democrat. So, Trump has latched on to whatever will give him the most power and most recognition.
And it is power.
All of this is to do with power.
Yeah.
And people will latch on to whoever's the most powerful, and they will go, oh, I never said that, or oh, I changed my mind.
Yeah.
There's too much of it, and it's happening over and over again. So we need to have enough of us band together to get behind the 1% to switch the power scales.
I agree with you, and point well taken.
I'm Gregg Shapiro, and let's queer up entertainment. Queer-led Broadway shows dominate 2026 Tony Awards nominations ahead of June ceremony. The nominations for the 79th Annual Tony Awards are out, showing a strong lineup of LGBTQ plus talent across Broadway productions. The ceremony will take place on June 7th at Radio City Music Hall and will be hosted by none other than Pink. Leading the queer inclusive productions is Schmigadoon with 12 nominations, tying with The Lost Boys as one of the season's most nominated shows. Schmigadoon's co-creator, Cinco Paul, has earned 3 nominations for musical adaptation, while Sarah Chase received her first Tony nomination. Former SNL star Anna Gasteyer is also nominated for her role in the Best Performance by an Actress in a Featured Role in a Musical. Next comes Cats, the Jellicle Ball, which has picked up 9 nominations, including Best Revival of a Musical. Activist and costume designer Queen Jean has earned 2 nominations, while co-directors Jalen Livingston and Bill Rauch were also nominated. Next is the Rocky Horror Show, which also secured 9 nominations. Luke Evans earned a nomination for his portrayal of Dr. Frankenfurter, while Stephanie Sue and Rachel Dratch were recognized in acting categories. Meanwhile, Titanic received 4 nominations, including Best Musical. Creator and star Marla Mindell earned nominations for Best Leading Actress and Best Book, while Leighton Williams was nominated in a featured acting category. Veteran Broadway star Lathan Lane also earned his 7th Tony nomination for Death of a Salesman. This is his first nomination in a decade. Okay, so I'm just going to put this out there. I am a movie person, not a theater person. I will have to wait until the movie versions are released to form any kind of an opinion. But since this is not all about me, congrats to the nominees.
I mean, it's always great to see that, there's queer representation out there.
Yes.
I love Broadway. Surprised that some of these were still on Broadway, to be honest with you, because I saw them years and years ago. But again, it's always great to see, that there is, especially considering everything else out there and everything that we've talked about, in the past of all the queer representation disappearing because of one thing or another. So it's great, and congratulations everybody for the nominations. That means you're doing your job well.
Right. Well, it seems like, without the queers and the Jews, I don't think you would have Broadway. So it seems like every year is like a groundbreaking year for gay representation. To be quite honest with you, I don't really know why this is a story, but I'm very happy for all of you, and congratulations. And when I get to New York, hopefully I could see a few things. So congrats.
Yes.
Actual facts. Facts. I'm Rex Rogosch, and let's queer up trans rights. One of Texas' largest cities is formally recognizing transgender history for the first time. The San Antonio City Council in Texas approved a resolution recognizing May 4th through 10th as Trans Plus History Week, an internationally observance held each year during this week of May 6th, known as Trans Plus History Day. The date commemorates the 1933 Nazi raid on the Institute of Sexology, one of the earliest centers for the study of gender and sexuality, and a pioneer in transgender advocacy. Out San Antonio City Councilman Jailene McKee Rodriguez introduced the proclamation. McKee Rodriguez said the recognition was about respecting all residents, adding, quote, "The way that we talk about each other matters, and it's pushing people to make life-ending decisions, so we all have the duty to treat each other with respect and kindness and love," end quote. Naveen Farani, spokesperson for Equality Texas, said, quote, "At a moment when both our state and country are systematically trying to push trans people out of public life, erase our stories, and outright deny our existence, this is proclamation recognizing Trans History Week is a beacon to trans people in San Antonio and across Texas," end quote. San Antonio has continued promoting queer inclusion despite ongoing tensions with the conservative state government. In March, the city unveiled rainbow sidewalks tied to its annual Pride celebration, shortly after Texas Governor Greg Abbott's administration pushed to remove rainbow crosswalks on city roads. LGBTQ plus activists and local transgender leaders believe it is important for San Antonio to take such a stance and remain an example of inclusion in Texas. It's interesting to talk about Texas. I mean, I grew up in Texas. I grew up right outside of Houston. And it's interesting that most of the cities are very liberal. In fact, we had a lesbian mayor in Houston for a very long time.
Wow.
Austin is a college town. Dallas has a huge gay area, Turtle Creek. So it's interesting that you have all of these very LGBTQ friendly and inclusive areas within the larger state of Texas. And it's always a battle. And it's always been a battle. So it's really good to see that these cities are really standing up. And there's a lot of influx, both in Austin and San Antonio, of people from California moving there because a lot of the tech and oil companies moved into those areas because Texas has really has zero income tax laws and really good business laws. So you're seeing a huge influx of people with very liberal views as well. So we're starting to see Texas trying to go very purple, even though you have like a stronghold of the governor going, this is what we're doing, because you have huge rural populations that are still, injecting, kind of like Florida. It's
exactly like Florida. Yes.
So you've got pockets that are huge
these big cities,
that are very liberal, but then you've got a lot of rural people that are, very just uneducated.
Yeah,
I
can't handle.
I guess it's true what they say. You're a very tall gentleman yourself, and everything is much bigger in Texas, right? They grow them big there.
Yes, we do.
All right. So I just want to say, hey, being in a big city in Texas might be a really good time for anybody involved. So you should get over there and support the queers over there. And I like the idea of the sidewalks. You know, they didn't put it in the road; they put it on a sidewalk. So maybe that was a way of kind of getting around.
When we saw that happen in Miami, South Beach did the same thing. You know, there's always a way around things. You know, if you can't fight the government, you know, everybody always says we always find a way. Where there's a will, there's a way. So you can't do anything on private property. You can start, you know, Wilton Manor's put up the bike racks. They painted, like there are ways of getting around and still showing pride. And it's really good to see that the cities themselves, which in a way are autonomous, you know, they don't have a lot of, you know, the state can't impose a lot of jurisdiction on certain things. And they're using that to voice, you know, concern. They're using that to raise the voices of their constituents and their population within their city. So that's, you know, congratulations, San Antonio.
Bravo.
Bravo.
You know, just really quickly, I never thought I would ever go to Texas because I always just thought like it was hot. It was like Florida. I'm already in Florida. What do I need to go to Texas for? I'm actually part of a grant program for history teachers where they took us to San Antonio. It was all expenses paid, which was amazing. We stayed in great hotels, amazing. And we had a great time, and we went to all of the different missions in San Antonio. I won't get into the history, but it's a very, you know, there's a lot of history in Texas. There's a lot of indigenous organizing. There's a lot of community culture there. And it doesn't surprise me that a place like San Antonio would be one of the flagship places in Texas that would be celebrating trans visibility, because they're doing so many things right in that city. Just, you know, in terms of reclaiming their nativeness, in indigeneity. Actually, I learned that word when I was there. Their indigeneity, their, you know, what life was like before the Spanish colonization. I just want to say my hats off to you, San Antonio. And I would love to come back. So if anybody wants to, you know, sponsor a trip for me to go back, I'd be more than happy to take it.
And hopefully the 6 Flags of Texas becomes 7, and one of those is a queer flag.
Yeah.
Oh.
LGBTQ 1 Minute News. Let's gay up queer culture. Hotspots magazine new issue brings glam, gay icons, and Florida escapes to the spotlight. Our Hotspots Happening Out LGBTQ lifestyle magazine, Hotspots, is back with features on queer joy, design, music, unforgettable Florida destinations, and more. This issue spotlights Jessie Ware celebrating the fans who made her feel so adored and sexy. You will read designer Jonathan Adler reflecting on creativity and survival, and iconic Florida film locations from Miami Beach to the Keys. Plus, readers will find thoughtful Mother's Day inspirations filled with heartfelt ways to celebrate the mom and chosen family members who matter most. These feature stories and many more are included in your free copy of upcoming issue of Hotspots magazine, which is already on stands today. I mean, it's always a great read. There's always something for everybody in the magazine, so I encourage you, when you find it, pick it up, take it home, and, you know, thumb through it. You know, you will always find out something new, and you might find out something that you never knew.
Sometimes I cut the pictures out and just look at those.
I
Because
knew
they're
that was
odd.
coming. I knew he was.
Did you know I was going to do that? You knew I was going to take it
There's
there.
always somebody
It's-
saying that we should have a half-naked person on the cover.
Oh, but there always is. And it's great, and I like it, and that's why I always take a copy. So you should too when you're out and about.
So visual and intellectual stimulation.
Intellectual? What are you talking about? It's just more visual to me. Well, anyway, I guess everybody's different. LGBTQ 1 Minute News. Let's queer up gay culture. Texas's oldest gay bar faces closure amid repair costs, but you can help it survive. Texas's oldest continuously operating gay bar, Robert's Lafitte, could close within weeks as mounting repair costs and code violations threaten its future. Employees told Cron.com that the bar urgently needs plumbing and ceiling repairs after inspection by the Galveston County Health District and the Texas Alcoholic Beverage Commission. Bartender Terry Lynn Fuller told Cron that the bar likely needs more than $10,000 to stay open. Opened in 1965, this historic venue has long served LGBTQ and allied communities in Galveston. Barr's show director, Tiffany De La Vega, has been self-funding some repairs and has launched a GoFundMe campaign with a $5,000 goal to help cover immediate needs, including repairs, permits, and overdue taxes. Terrible, what's that saying? The only thing certain, I think it was Benjamin Franklin who said the only thing certain in life is death and taxes. So before they do anything with the permitting and the repairs, they got to pay those taxes. So if you could help them out, if anybody's got some deep pockets, help them out, and then I'll give you my QR code as well. But definitely you don't want to lose, culture, especially not in, we were just talking about Texas in the previous segment, not only are things bigger in Texas, but also they have some really cool things happening, and it's quite a different part of the state than San Antonio, it's just Galveston, it's beautiful there. It's right on the beach, right?
Yeah, it is. My problem, unfortunately, is this is not a gay issue. This is a business issue. And we see this often. Bad business ruins business, not the fact that it's gay. So yes, we should help keep it open, but we also need to figure out why they got to this point.
Right.
Was it, bad management? Was it just the lack of people going? I mean, we see gay bars decline, attendance at gay bars declining around the United States in general because people feel either more included in the places. We've got Grindr and those types of things.
Right.
So, which is sad, and that's a sad state of affairs, and that's a cultural shift as well. So,
and that it's been there for more than 60 years. It's
correct.
Really, it's heartbreaking.
Yep.
Yeah.
And Galveston is not easy to get to,
Right.
FYI.
Right.
Well, they had after the emancipation of enslaved people, it took them many years for them to find out that they had been emancipated. So, I mean, that's, it's that isolated.
It is.
So,
it is the beach town. For, again, growing up in Houston, it's a 3.5-hour drive down to Galveston from Houston. So, well, and hopefully they can, get their things fixed. Obviously, we don't want to see any business closed, but let's also fix the reason why, and let's go support them.
LGBTQ 1-minute news. Let's queer up entertainment. Bad Bunny stuns Met Gala with detailed aged-up look and fashion. Singer Bad Bunny made a dramatic entrance at the 2026 Met Gala, appearing nearly unrecognizable in an aged-up transformation inspired by the event's costume art theme. The 32-year-old star arrived with fully gray hair, a salt and pepper beard, and detailed prosthetic makeup created by artist Mike Marino. The look referenced the exhibit's focus on the aging body. Bad Bunny paired the makeup with an all-black tuxedo designed with Zara. Inspired by Charles James' bustle gown, he completed the look with a black cane and stayed in character throughout the night. Fans praised the transformation online, with one writing, quote, "Bro, even acting the part of old. Give this guy an Oscar," end quote. Well, I've been developing fan of Bad Bunny since the Super Bowl, and I think he is a big supporter, no matter what his personal life is, and that's his personal business.
I'm just confused by the Met Gala this year. I've seen the exhibition, and it is about the aging body, and they show fashion in different forms of the body, from disabilities, aging, body, inside out body. Like it's a very interesting exhibit, but I don't know how that related to art is fashion.
Right.
And then, unfortunately, a lot of the fashion critics who have been talking about the fashion are just like, oh, this doesn't fit the theme, because they haven't seen the exhibit. And then there was no references. And so I've seen a lot of people going, well, this was the painting that they were referencing. This year, Met Gala I missed the mark. And let's not even talk about the whole Bezos thing. Well, but I love Bad Bunny.
Well, I love Bad Bunny, and I especially love Kentucky Fried Chicken, and he looked like Colonel Sanders. And so that was my reference. He looked like Colonel Sanders going to a funeral, dressed all in black. If you look at it, he does look like that. So it's like two of my very favorite things these days is, Kentucky Fried Chicken. I've gained a few little pounds. So chicken strips and Benito sounds like a great Saturday night to me. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and we could go on and talk about the others. Heidi Klum, oh my.
Right.
Well, she's always dressed like crazy. What did she do this year?
She was a sculpture.
A sculpture. Like one year she came like in a lobster suit and was like wobbling, and once she came as like a deformed child and like a wheelchair. I don't know, like it's just.
And then Madonna, I mean, at least I saw the correlation between the original art piece of art with Madonna and what she actually presented. So it was interesting.
She's starting to look a little bit more regularized with her face. I think she got the filler removed or dissolved. I mean, I don't want to,
it's called Gravity Blanche.
Yes.
It's Gravity Blanche Elizabeth Devereaux.
Bad Bunny acting the part of old. Has he been watching me grunting and groaning as I got out of my car? Is that where he got the act from?
Oh, he'll recover.
LGBTQ 1 Minute News. Let's queer up the worldview. Ukraine advances new civil code without same-sex protections. The Kyiv Independent reported the measure passed its first reading on April 28th by a 254-2 vote. More than 24 advocacy groups said the proposal contradicts European standards and Ukraine's commitments tied to its European Union accession process. The advocates warned the draft would prevent courts from recognizing same-sex family relationships and would block legal recognition of same-sex partnerships. The proposal would also invalidate marriages involving people who have changed their gender. The second reading of the proposed measure is a chance to fix all these concerns. Civil society organizations have already prepared detailed amendments and are calling for lawmakers to engage. Protests are planned across Ukraine on International Day Against Homophobia, Biphobia, and Transphobia on May 17th. What happens next will say a lot about the direction Ukraine chooses. Well, as someone who is a quarter Ukrainian, I am ashamed of my heritage right now.
Well, and the fact that this is what they're worried about when they're still in the middle of a war. I know we forgot to talk about the war that they're still in, but they're still in a war, people.
Very much.
So, like, shouldn't we?
Yeah.
Well,
Go ahead. I was just going to say, to compliment what Rex was saying, I was thinking that they were going in a positive direction to escape the tyranny that Russia is trying to oppress them with.
Exactly.
And, my God.
I wonder if, this might be like shrewd, body politic, what they're doing. Maybe like the first draft of it didn't include LGBTQ plus people because they didn't want to be quote unquote seen as maybe radical, but knew that in the second drafting of it that they would start including some of these things. They're not going to be admitted into the European Union, if they don't align themselves with the union's stance on, human rights for all. So I doubt that this is really going to be the final, period or exclamation mark on this law. It is upsetting. Obviously, I also think that there are shrewd politicians. I was there back in 2012, and I got to meet some very high-level people. I won't say who, but I met some people in their Congress or what legislative body, and those people, they're shrewd operators. And so I have to think that there's something behind the scenes happening. Otherwise, it's really shitty. So get your act together, Ukraine.
LGBTQ 1 Minute News. Let's queer up politics. AI deepfake ad sparks Republican feud in Kentucky primary. A political ad created using AI-generated video is drawing backlash from Republican leaders ahead of Kentucky's May 19th primary election. The ad falsely depicts Republican Representative Thomas Massie holding hands with Representatives Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Democratic Party's Ilhan Omar, suggesting the three are in a, quote, throuple. The footage was designed to resemble security camera video and includes a small disclaimer stating it was AI-generated. The ad was funded by a group called MAGA Kentucky, which opposes Massie's after he broke with President Donald Trump on several issues, including calls to release files connected to Jeffrey Epstein. Trump has endorsed Massie's challenger, Ed Galerin. Former Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene has condemned the ad on Twitter. Politics. I mean, look, unfortunately, we've got left and we've got right, and there's nobody landing in the middle, and they're all throwing mud to see what sticks. And when somebody breaks, because we've talked about this earlier, people change their minds and wishy-wash to where they're going to get the most. And Republicans are seeing that people are starting to pull away. So you're going to start seeing some people pulling away from Donald Trump, which is a good thing because Republicans in the past were not all bad. MAGAs, what?
I can't sit with you at this table anymore.
Well,
No,
as somebody who's knows
joking.
history, you should know Republicans are not necessarily bad. They're just usually conservative financially. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. As a business person, I was conservative financially because I wanted my business to run.
Right.
So again, you see Marjorie Taylor Greene going, yo, this is not right. And we all know that she was not the best person until recently.
A broken clock can be right twice a day, so even Marjorie Taylor Greene can be right about something.
And a broken
it doesn't.
clock can be fixed.
Oh, you think there's redemption for her after
I didn't
all.
say that, but a broken clock can be fixed.
Oh, I guess that's right. I guess that is right. And I like how they said, well, I thought it was, they didn't like it, but it was funny how they said they were in a throuple. Don't they know that throuple is not the word that the cool kids are using anymore? It's called a polycule.
That's
So,
Thank you.
so just so that you know, it's a polycule.
Wow.
And it's actually more prevalent in society than most people think.
Right.
True.
Are you in one?
I was once.
Oh, how was that?
It's no longer around.
Oh, gosh.
These are today's headlines from Queer News Tonight. Our anchors represent the best of our LGBTQ family.
If our community is important to you, share this news with your friends and family. Don't forget to join the conversation on your favorite streaming platform.
Queer News Tonight is the only live LGBTQ digital television show in the world that is out of the closet and into the headlines. We need your support. If our community is to grow and then thrive, we must tell our stories and bring them to the attention of the broader world.
This is the only place in the world that tells these types of LGBTQ stories in motion and sound. That is the passion of Hotspots magazine, happening on television network, and Queer News Tonight.
I'm your anchor, Rex Rogosch, and I thank you for joining us on behalf of my fellow LGBTQ anchors here at Queer News Tonight. Brian Bender, Larry Farver, and Gregg Shapiro. We'll see you daily at 8 p.m. To our LGBTQ plus world, we wish you a good night.